TLTTalks. We have a very, very exciting show for you today. One of my dear friends will be joining us. Before there was Zillow, before there was StreetEasy, before there were any of these other third-party data websites, whatever you call it, the original, the OG, and my dear friend Rebecca Mason, who we are trying to get on here. There she is.
Hey.
There she is. Hey, Rebecca. How is it going?
Good. Hi, Eugene. Sorry about before, a little technical difficulty on our end.
No sweat. What would life be without technical difficulties? A constant opportunity for growth and improvement, right?
I never realized how useful that phrase was whenever you used to hear it on the news before we got all fancy, but it's like, now I get it.
That's right. So, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Rebecca Mason, who is the driver of the City Realty machine. Rebecca, I'm not going to waste any time introducing you because you are wonderful and fabulous and have every capability of doing it far better than I can. So why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and what you guys do over there?
Sure. So as everybody can probably hear, I originally grew up in England. I came here at a ripe old age of 18, and I've been working in New York City real estate ever since. I love it.
Nice.
I'm one of the few lifers where that's all I've done here. And, you know, New York City is one of those great cultures where you talk about food and real estate. So it's stood me in good stead, and I've had the privilege to work in real estate across the board, from property management, asset management, being a broker myself, having my own brokerage firm. And about 3 years ago was very, very fortunate to be asked to take the managing director role at City Realty, which is a little bit different. We're not a brokerage, but I would say we're the original lead generator for agents across the city.
Yeah, beautiful. And so can you just tell us in, I don't know, 30 to 60 seconds, for those that may not be familiar, you know, if I logged on to cityrealty.com, what could I find? What are you guys best known for? What is the value that you add to the marketplace?
Right. So we are the longest continually running website for New York City residential real estate in the world.
Yeah.
Because of that longevity, the depth of our data is bar none. You can really research buildings. We have all the buildings and all the upcoming buildings in New York City. And it's really a great way or a great tool to get informed about the market pricing, what's going on, what's happened, to really kind of educate yourself.
Amazing. Amazing. And so for those that may not know, City Realty is not just known locally, but there are buyers from all over the world that may not know what a Corcoran or a Compass or, you know, formerly a town is. And so when they start looking at New York City real estate, City Realty does pop up, and lots of folks go to City Realty as a third-party, unbiased source of information. And I have to say to you guys, obviously, I use your website quite often, and it is fantastic. So with that, why don't we talk market? You know, you have a view that most people don't get to have. You have this aerial, see all, know all, totally unbiased. Because with most brokerages, look, the media wants to sell papers. You know, brokerages want to sell real estate, and so you kind of have this really beautiful, unbiased view of the marketplace. So you know, it's no secret that things are shifting. Would you care to share what you folks over there are seeing? You know, that's the question. What are you seeing as far as the state of the market?
Well, we're definitely in a transition period. 2019, 2020 were very much a buyer's market. We were then in very much a seller's market. We are seeing an increase in terms of supply, meaning whereas we've been at record shortages of supply, we're beginning to see more supply stay on the market, I would say. It's not that it's being bought at such a rate. I think we're going to see in a couple of months probably some more negotiability on the resale end. We're beginning to see some new developments that were stalled going live now. So I think we're kind of at the beginning of this transitional market. And that's where I think for any buyers listening right now, this is where one of the best tools you can give yourself is really working with an expert agent, somebody who understands and can straddle both a buyer's and seller's market. Because they're very, very different worlds, and understanding, you know, for example, where negotiability may be, it's not always on the end price. It may be in closing costs. It may be in time frame. But having an agent who understands where that negotiability, you know, such as you,
thank you,
putting them really in the best advantage. I think also understanding what you're buying is going to be a really important trend, and knowing, you know, what the bank feels about this particular building. So where the financing might be coming. I think there's going to be more creative solutions in the market in terms of whether people are doing traditional mortgages. I'm certainly seeing adjustable rate mortgages coming in, and we'll get to that later. But I do feel that at the moment we still are at a shortage of supply. If a product is priced correctly, it will sell, it will get buyers. But we are seeing property sitting a little bit longer than we have done in the past year. I think so much so that April and May were actually down year over year in terms of the volume and price point of contracts signed. I think April and May 2021, we were over 3 billion, and this year we're only over 2 billion. You know, that's a significant deduction. And I think we're going to see that, you know, continue.
Yeah, for sure. No, I couldn't agree more. I'm doing a Thursday Thriving. Winter is coming. Are you planning to prosper podcast? It goes on Instagram and it goes on YouTube, and I'm just sharing things that I've learned from the biggest financial gurus in the world, and they're all predicting. You know, they have different philosophies on different things, but everyone's kind of saying the same thing. That like these are unprecedented times, and what is certain is that this interest rate will continue to rise. The Fed just met; they're raising it again with, you know, no shocker there. And you know, that we are heading towards, you know, a pretty significant recession over the next 18 months, 2023 being the worst of it. So it's no surprise this market's transitioning. You know, I totally agree with you. We're seeing the same thing on our side. We're seeing that things are starting to shift. You know, there's some less inquiries. Again, a good product is still a good product. There are lots of buyers that are coming off the fence to lock in something now before the rates get even worse. Because keep in mind, although it's easy to say, yeah, well, with the rising rates, real estate prices will go down, but the rents are also going up. So even though even though the interest rates are going up and the prices are cooling a bit, you know, to someone that needs to move, someone that just had a family or someone that needs more space, well, the rents are so astronomical that even paying a higher interest rate still makes sense in some ways. And so it's interesting, and I can agree with you more. You know, like, look, you know, I think you guys are an amazing resource for buyers. I think Street Easy is a fine resource for buyers, even though I'm not fully aligned with all of their values and practices. I think I love anything where the consumer has more information at their disposal, and like everyone has WebMD. If you needed foot surgery, would you go buy a scalpel and just start operating on your foot? You know, it's like so. I highly encourage whoever may be watching this. The market is transitioning. Just because you see a piece of data online, it means nothing without the intelligent and expert interpretation of that data. And now more than ever, because markets are moving, it's like you just got to be in business with someone that knows what they're doing day in and day out. And that's not just a broker. That's also the mortgage broker, the attorney, you know, the players that matter. This is not a time for, you know, DIY. Yourself. This is not a time for DIY, you know? So, yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree with everything you're saying, you know?
I'd like to just, you picked up on the rental market. We are at unprecedented prices for the rental market. I think right now the average, we just ran a report on this, the average rental price in New York City below 96th and 110th Street, East and West, is 5,000.
It's crazy.
It's the highest ever, and it's only going to go up.
Yeah,
and
just for reference, just for reference, we rented. So we do a lot of business in a building in Williamsburg called the Edge, right? It's a call home for many years, and we in late 2020 we rented a 1-bedroom apartment, pretty 1-bedroom, 700 square feet, balcony, city views, for $3,600 with the owner paying a broker's fee. We just rented that same apartment about 18 months later for $5,000 with the tenants paying the broker's fee, and we ended up getting multiple applications. So in mathematical terms, that's a 45% increase, and people are fighting over this unit. So it's like when you look at the 1-bedroom that went from 1.1 to 1.25, even at a 5 or 6% rate, is still far more affordable than the $5,000 1-bedroom you're going to fight over that the landlord's probably going to increase you next year. So yeah, look, it's interesting. All of it's interesting.
And I think also that's going to start driving investors to our market.
Oh yeah. We're seeing a lot of that. We have 2 new developments that we launched, one in Ridgewood, Queens, and one in Bushwick, Brooklyn, and both of them, they're on the lower end. Price points are between 500 and 800 grand, 30 units each, and both of them are attracting investors, both local and international, because everyone's seeing what's going on with the rents. And so. That brings us to my next question. So for the non-investor market, right? For the end user, for the person looking to buy, for the person that's a little flustered by the rates, but realizes, rents are still crazy, and New York City is still always a good bet. And, I can, even if I lock in a 6% or now, at some point the rates will go back down likely, and I can refinance. For the person that pushes forward and decides, I'm a buyer in today's market anyways, do you have any tips? What are you seeing? They say success leaves clues. What are this? You guys see a lot of buyers. What do you see that helps buyers find success in this market?
The biggest tip is be prepared. If you're going to be financing, I sound like a Girl Guide or a Girl Scout.
Do but not collect $200. Do not pass go. Go right to your paperwork.
Exactly. But know what your spending power is. Make sure you're pre-approved. Have a thorough understanding of what your monthly or where you're comfortable spending monthly, not only in terms of the end purchase price, but what that monthly payment is going to look like. Yeah. I think the most successful buyers, and we have people who, great, it's wonderful, that are prepared, that actually end up in contract maybe about 12 to 15 days after they start looking, because they can secure that apartment because they're pre-approved. The building is a solid building, so there are no questions from the bank. They've got enough of a down payment. They're ready. Right. They've got a clear idea. They've got a great buyer's agent that has actually taken the time to educate them on the market so that they know where the opportunities are. So pre-approval, if you're financing, is definitely the biggest step. And make sure you understand what that monthly payment you're comfortable with is. I think the second piece is, if you're an all-cash buyer, bravo to you, congratulations. Make sure you have a letter in writing showing proof of funds or indicating that will take you so far. What we're seeing now, and especially we saw it during the first quarter, where a lot of the high-end transactions were billionaires row. A lot of those sellers will not allow you in without that. They just have really limited that kind of showing. I think if you are thinking of buying a new development, make sure you understand the process. And again, align yourself with an expert so you have multiple avenues of experts, whether it's banks, mortgage brokers, attorneys, making sure that you really have got a group of advisors around you that can take you successfully. And I would say, no matter where you are, whether you're financing new development, resale, cash, make sure you've got your team of advisors all lined up. That will make it much easier. And I will say, make sure you're using a New York City real estate attorney.
No Uncle Sal from New Jersey that does real estate on the side, right?
Unfortunately, I've seen more deals blow up
Yeah,
because of that, I think,
yeah.
than any other reason.
In all areas, by the way, not just a broker. Like, I
Yeah.
get it all the time. Oh, I'm gonna use my Uncle John from New Jersey. He does a law on the side. Like, no, please, I'll pay for your lawyer. Just please don't make this. No, yeah, it's so spot on. And you had mentioned earlier in the show about creative financing. We're already seeing it. Some developers are already offering supplemental seller financing. Uh, Keep in mind, folks, as much as buyers are feeling some of the uncertainty of this transition, so are sellers. So it's very possible there's a seller out there that bought something in 2010 that now they have a lot of equity in it and they're feeling like it's time to sell and they're feeling uncertain about the market. And maybe this is a seller that's not optimizing for top dollar, but they just want to sell quickly. And so they're going to put it on the market probably below the comps to move it quickly. And that's probably going to yield a lot of traffic. And if you're such a buyer that has waited until after you found something you like to start doing all this work that Rebecca is intelligently speaking of, guess what? You're going to miss out. And in every market, good or bad, there are deals, and there are ample deals in this market. And if you are not prepared, you will miss out, right? We
Yeah.
have a common phrase in the industry. People do not live in the purchase price; they live in the payment. So I couldn't agree with you more. There's a multitude of mortgage products out there. You've got the 30-year fixed, you've got the 15-year fixed, you've got the ARM, you've got the interest only, you've got a multitude. I mean, that's just a few. There's probably a dozen or 2 dozen different mortgage products out there, depending on what you're optimizing for. If you're one of these people like myself that don't really believe in paying down the real estate, but just paying it forward until it's time to sell, the other people that want to buy. So again, there's so many different strategic
Right.
tactical options. But again, the point is, and I agree totally, do all the homework on the front end. When we start working, I mean, we get 100% of our business actually is return and referral customers. And when we get a buyer referral or a person that comes back to us that now wants to buy, we don't even talk about looking at property until we've sat down and had a consultation on what is what do you look, why are you looking to buy this? How long are you going to hold it? What's the goal? What kind of mortgage? Like, it's like trying to build a building and talking about the color of the curtains before we've talked about the foundation or how many bedrooms we want this thing to have or how many units we want it to have, right? So, yeah, man,
Absolutely.
just spot on.
And
On,
a couple of
Rebecca.
anecdotes. I mean, one of the things that we're seeing is banks are getting more conservative in their appraisals.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, to use and just give another anecdote, we had somebody very creatively who wanted to finance their purchase. For them, luckily, they had the option. They couldn't get the bank, and this was a preferred lender for a new development. They couldn't, the bank wasn't really signing off on the purchase price.
Right.
So they ended up refinancing their home in another state and using cash. So there are always going to be options, and working with an expert agent and an advising team will give you those options. There's always a solution to every problem. And as you said, there's always a market in New York City.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so with that, what are you seeing as far as trends, right? So I think we're totally, I think everybody's pretty much aligned on where what's happening currently. I think no one has a crystal ball to see what will happen next. I'll tell you one thing, every time New York is challenged in any way, be it recession, COVID, it finds a way to bounce back. So I'm not being overconfident, but if I just look historically over the last 100 years, every time New York finds a way to bounce back strong. So long term, I'm not that concerned. Short term, we're in for some pain. The whole world is in for some pain. Short term. So what are some of the trends you're seeing as far as, localized trends? What can you share with our audience?
So I think localized trends, I think the neighborhoods are expanding. We're seeing much more interest in, I would say, non-traditional neighborhoods. Ridgewood, for example, which you referenced. Those are a great opportunity for people who are looking to get into the market and get out of the rental market. We're seeing that, has expanded into Brooklyn, Queens, even the Bronx. The neighborhoods are definitely getting further and further afield. I think in terms of international buyers, we're beginning to see them come back. And they are really going to drive, I believe, the high-end sector of the market, the 3 to 4 million and above. We're getting a lot more interest. They're kind of facing the same issues in their own country. But New York City globally is still one of the top 10 global markets. And it's always perceived as a safe investment. So what we're beginning to see is people with the stock market as erratic as it is right now, those who can and taking a long-term investment are looking to diversify their asset portfolio and invest in New York City real estate. I think we are going to see those who need to buy are going to buy now. So I think we still have an immediate market, and I think we are going to have much more of an opportunistic market, whereas those deals that you're talking about, we're going to start seeing in 2 to 3 months.
Yeah, I totally agree. All of my brother and sisters in the crypto world are fleeing crypto to real estate now. Whew, what a beating over this last quarter. My goodness.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's a big shot. Mike Tyson used to have a phrase. Everyone's got a plan till they get punched in the face. Everybody was a crypto expert for the last 2 years. And now all of a sudden, you just hear quiet. It's just all quiet, but yeah, no, I again, once again, we're totally aligned. Ridgewood, I was surprised. We took over a new development there. When it was launched, it was sort of stalled, and we knew that the current marketing wasn't all of what it could be. But honestly, the level of success we've had there, we're at I think 60% in contract in 60 days, and everything's at the asking price. I mean, we're playing with concessions, we're doing some things around concessions, but everything's at the asking price, and people are they're loving the neighborhood. They're loving that it's quieter. I mean, listen, I moved into Williamsburg in 2010. Williamsburg of today isn't what it was then. Every neighborhood gentrifies, and the same thing that you like about it is the same thing you start to maybe not like as much about it down the road. But yeah, we're seeing the same things. And we've had multiple, on our new developments, we've had multiple international investors come through. We had one person come in, buy a place, like the building so much, they bought a second one as an investment. And we're all over the place. We had a contract, actually we just closed a couple of weeks ago, on Park Avenue and 79th Street at an incredible price. And then things in South Brooklyn are moving too. So the market is shifting, but I would not go as far as to say that it's a buyer's market or anywhere near
Not
that.
yet.
Just yet. It's coming. The buyers will have their revenge next year. The sellers have been steadily in control for some time. The buyers will certainly have their revenge, but not yet, buyers. Not yet. Maybe next year. Rebecca, what a pleasure. My goodness. I could stay on this call with you for for literally the rest of this day. But I want to be respectful to your schedule. Any final thoughts? Any final thoughts to close? Do you want to shout out City Realty anyway? Any final thoughts about what we've been chatting about? How do you want to close this up?
Well, there's 2 points I want to make. First of all, everybody, please feel free to visit cityrealty.com. And then the second point I want to make, as I kind of referenced before, New York City is a global market. There's always going to be a market here. If it's not in one price point, if that price point, for example, the below million is soft, you're going to find that there's a pickup in another area of the market. Don't lose confidence in it. And if you're needing to buy, forget what everybody else is saying. You do what's right for you. You will find it, and remember that you're doing the right. If you're going to purchase. Yeah.
Oh man, I couldn't agree with that more. People come to us all the time. They're like, "Oh, is it the right time to buy?" It's like, there is no right or wrong time to buy. Is it the right time to buy a stock? There's no right or wrong time. You look at the whole portfolio. You look at what you're trying to do. You look at what your options are, and you make a decision. And gosh, I want to, my close off is we've been doing this show now for I think nearly 3 years, and we have had dozens of folks come on and talk about the market and this and that, the other, and every time buyers come up, or the truth is, anytime a buyer or a seller, a renter, a landlord, anytime that topic comes up and I ask for any tips, 100% of the time it has something to do with preparation. If it's a buyer or a renter, have your paperwork ready. If it's a seller or landlord, study the market. So, folks, my goodness, how many different ways do you have to hear it? Actually, Michael Rima loves to say this all the time. If he had 6 hours to chop down a tree, he would spend the first 4 or 5 sharpening the axe. So for all you folks out there that are getting ready to start a real estate venture, get ready first. Do the prep first, and then, then go and have a successful venture and obviously line up your team. Rebecca, what a pleasure. Thank you for your time. Have an
Thank
amazing
you.
day. To all
You
watching,
too.
thank you all. And make sure to visit cityrealty.com, an awesome, awesome resource. All right, gang.
Thanks,
Take
Eugene.
care,
Take
everybody.
care.